are 2022 Stanley Cup champions.
Hello and season's greetings, everyone. Here at Center Ice. Sorry, Cluster Puck Podcast first. Let's make an introduction the right way. Welcome to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT network. Here at Center Ice, I am Nick. Beside me here is the ever the younger, ever the wiser Bronco Bill. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm not too sure I'm younger or wiser, but I'll take that compliment, definitely. Thanks so much. Hey, how was your Christmas, by the way?
Hey, it was great, man. It was a good holiday season where I'm up at in-laws right now. They gave me a great backdrop right now. It's festive, man. I can't appreciate it any more than I do. So, but how about you, man? How was your holiday season? How was your Christmas?
It was really good, really good. Got to spend it with the grandkids, and that's always a fun time. And I got to see them and open their gifts. So it was really good, really good. So I'm looking forward to relaxing this week.
That's right. That's right. Any fun gifts that you got or that you gave away?
Got my wife a new printer. My wife and I went and got son and daughter-in-law a new flat top cooking, kind of like a grill for outside. So that was really good. Grandson got a remote control cart that he was playing. The thing is totally dirty already. He's only had it for like a couple hours. He's already out there in the dirt racing.
I remember as a kid, whenever we got toys like that, I think it was within the first use or two, it was already broken.
Oh yeah.
Yep, gone are those days though. Now it's like after maybe 6 months, it's about broken, but after trying to be careful for so long. So,
exactly.
But Christmas was great here. I'm repping a Christmas gift right here, actually, an old Nordiques. This was back in the WHA days, 1972, when they first came in to that league, and then later, 7 years later, they become the Nordiques of the NHL and eventually the Avalanche, which is exactly what we're going to get into here. But first, we want to make sure that you guys are aware that anytime you want to head on over to our page, you can follow us at the Cluster Puck Avs on Instagram and on Twitter, and the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook. Don't forget to also follow the MHRT network, where you can get shows such as the Cluster Puck Podcast, and you can catch his shows with Bronco Bill Friday. I bet you Friday is going to be a pretty good one with some recent news that we had over in Broncos territory. So don't forget Broncos Breakdown with Bill here Friday. Love his episodes. I suggest you guys go and check them out as well. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I don't know if it's going to be the most eventful week that has happened just because of the holiday and stuff that kind of happened over the weekend. However, there were some keys that I did want to bring up. So this last week, the Avalanche win. They win the week, all 3 games. Not a one of them, though, was a regulation time win. Now, you get the outcome that you want, a win. That's 2 points more in the standings. You know, you're heading your way up, third in the division right now, if I'm not mistaken. But winning in that fashion, where you're scoring 1, 2, maybe 3 points, it seems like the production is kind of started to teeter a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed that at all, Bill, but I just want to get your thoughts on the week and how you thought the offense as a whole has done.
Well, let me go back before the week. We beat Nashville 3-1, and that was the only game that didn't go to overtime. But the other 3, like you mentioned, the Islanders, Montreal, and Nashville all went overtime. In fact, the Islanders was a 1-0 game. That was a nail biter. My thought is this: they're doing just enough to win these games with key players out like Nathan McKinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, and others. That and I think we lost Cagliano there in that next to last game or last game, and he went out with the injury. So they're doing just enough to maintain their hold, at least in the top 3 of the division. What bothers me is this: how long is it going to be until we get these key players back? And can the Avalanche maintain because we're going to go into a tough stretch. We have to play Boston again. We have to play Tampa Bay. We have to play a lot of these juggernaut teams that are going to take advantage of the Avalanche not having key players. That's my concern. So if we can maintain what we're doing and just stay level meaning, don't sink down, but, keep getting those wins, whether they be overtime or shootouts or whatever. Keep getting those key wins. And then when we get our key players back, oh my goodness, watch out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because with the offense that we have, it seems like, at least from last season, it used to be one guy gets taken away, it's next man fills the spot, but the production seemed to just keep on going at its pace. It was doing great. But just this last week, it kind of made me think, are we trying to just play more sound? Are we trying to play it more safe? It just kind of seemed like, even though the shots were still there, they didn't seem to possess the, I don't know what the term would be for it, but that factor that it's like drive it to the net, actually shoot it for a purpose instead of just trying to shoot for a stat, I guess is one way to put it. But at the same time, you're winning the games, which means defensively, looking at the good side of things, defensively, you seem to have been doing a pretty good job after that is the first shot and a goal for the opposing
Right.
It seemed like with the Montreal and was it the
Nashville
or
Islanders? Islanders, we never traveled
the Islanders out. Yeah. So I think it was with those ones, but it just seemed like with the first shot, it just goes in, and then it's a game of catch up, and then take the win in extra time or in shootouts for the Islanders case. Which so defensively, it's after that first shot, you then lock it down, which is great. You can't fault him for that, but it's just the question of, can something move around so that offense still has that drive where it's actually like you're shooting it, and almost in every single one, the goalie either has to stand on his head or you're making some kind of a good play but just miss it, which that has happened. But it just seems like right now it's you're just trying not to make mistakes, which is okay. It's fundamentally fine, but there just needs to be something more. You know what I mean? Just something that needs to drive the Avalanche to have that offensive gumption that we know that they have. Don't know if Bill, your thoughts on that?
Well, I personally think that they're missing not only Gabriel Landeskog, but when McKinnon went down, that is the leader on the power play. That's also the leader on the odd man rush. It's the leader on the number one line, period. And when McKinnon's not there, somebody else has to step in. And I haven't seen that person yet. I mean, I know they've tried with other players. I know there's Val Nichushkin. I know they've tried with him. He doesn't seem to be that level. I don't think there is somebody on the Avalanche at this point in time that has that level of a Nathan McKinnon or the moves that McKinnon has. So I think that's what they're missing. I also think that it's just that the defense of other teams is really gumming up the center right in front of the goalie. There's more. We had more blocked shots against us in the last several games than I can ever remember. And I think that's a lot what's happening is that they know that the Avalanche don't have McKinnon. They know they don't have a Landeskog. They know they don't have their number one team entirely. So not number team, but number one line entirely.
Sure.
And I think that if they feel, they being other teams, feel that they can shut down our number one line, they have an absolute excellent chance to win. And that's the problem as I see it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's one thing that we need to discuss is that power play, because it wasn't up until, was it the Montreal game or something like that? Maybe it was last week, but it was 0 for 18 or something like that. Like you had so many power play opportunities where at one point you were number one in the league, where you were just scoring at will. Like over half the time you were just netting goals left and right. And then as soon as all these pieces, like specifically McKinnon, started coming away, and all these other new, like Nichushkin and Rodriguez, started coming back, everything just seemed to just drop, which was the most bizarre thing. But you go 0 for like 18. Finally, you get one against, I think it was Montreal, but maybe someone could fact check me in the comments. But it just seems like the big thing that I'm looking at, it's like everyone's doing that thing where it's you can get into the zone to set up your power play, strategy and all that stuff. But then once you're there, it just seems like it's passing around the perimeter looking for the shot,
Right.
instead of just trying to create your own slot or create your own way to get to the net, shooting it, crashing in, trying to get an arid puck to go through and score. But it just seems like they're playing it too patient instead of going and attacking, which I think that is at least one thing or one way to look at it as far as why it might not be producing. Your thoughts?
And the timing is off too on some of these passes. I mean, the guys are open and they're just either getting barely deflected by the defender, or the puck takes a funny bounce. It goes over their stick, or it's just the timing is just slightly off. And I don't know if that's chemistry with not playing. I think that has something to do with it. I think it also has to do with trying to make that perfect pass. And I think you're right. I think, and I just thought of something. I'm kind of wondering if they're pressing a little too hard to try and make that perfect play, that perfect pass, instead of just taking what the defense gives you.
Yeah, that's definitely it actually brings up a good point though, because with the press that they're doing, maybe they're causing their own mistakes. They're basically tripping over themselves for trying too hard. Definitely that you do bring up a good point. So real quickly then, as far as we talked about this power play and how much it's missing MacKinnon. Does that translate to the offense as a whole? Do you think their production is kind of, I wouldn't say it has dropped or anything, because you're winning games, you're still scoring goals, but it just doesn't feel like it's got that same thing. Is that accredited to why or MacKinnon, or why we're missing out on so many of these opportunities? Or is it just these silly mistakes that you have a good shot, but it just bad puck luck? Which do you think?
Good question. I think it's a combination of both. To use a football analogy, MacKinnon is a quarterback on that team. I mean, he really is the quarterback on that team. And when he's not there, you're missing a leader. You're missing a performer. You're missing the main guy. And I think what's happening is, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's the chemistry. It's just the unfortunate way the puck is bouncing. And you also have to remember, too, the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup last year. There's not one single team or one single player on another team that isn't saying, this is our chance. This is our chance to beat the Stanley Cup champions. Now, that's not to say that they're beating everybody that we had on the ice, because that's not true. But they're beating the team. And they're going to come out and give us our best shot. I mean, look at some of these goalies that, are standing on their head, basically, to try and defeat the Avalanche. And I'll give credit to them, but I'll tell you what, when we've come out with a 2-1 win, a 3-2 win after trailing 2-0, like Avatar mentioned in the comments, trailing 2-0, coming back and winning that game 3-2, that showed stamina, that shows resilience, that shows desire. But I think a lot of it has to do with just bad luck and other teams just bringing out their best.
Yeah, definitely. And let's jump into that, actually. So let's go into our week in review and just kind of take it game by game real fast, just to kind of see what exactly happened throughout those games. So we'll start with the Islanders. This was definitely the battle of the goalies on that Monday game. They win in shootouts 1-0 thanks to an Evan Rodriguez goal on that shootout, and then Georgiev having a bit of luck on his side, but also some extremely sound defense. His second shutout. 26 saves, which is about par with a standard hockey game. This one, it seemed like there were so many chances for the Avalanche to get a lead, but they just kind of miss on that chance, kind of like what we were talking about just earlier, is they had the lane, they had an opening, they had the net that was just basically opening up to him, saying, hey, score me. But it just nothing seemed to click, which is okay. You won the game still, but this one, I would definitely say Georgiev, I feel like, got his rhythm right back.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep. Absolutely.
it was definitely a game where I thought the Islanders were kind of down because Sorokin was kind of on a downstroke. But it just proves that, once again, like what you said, they don't care that you're injury prone or you don't have all your pieces. The only thing they see are these are the Avalanche, these are the Stanley Cup champions, and they'll give you their best shot, which is exactly what the Islanders did.
Right. And I also think too that because we don't have a speedster in McKinnon, and we don't have the puck handling of a McKinnon or Gabriel Landeskog on there as our number one line, they're just sitting back at the blue line and they are stopping us. They're making us dump and chase, and that wears out a team more than anything. When you have to chase the puck and the other guys are already in their zone, that makes it very, very tough to set up. And you're seeing the results on a 1-0 game and a 2-1 game. Those are the kind of games that are nail biters, and those are the ones that you have to grind and come up with some type of a win. And so far, the Avalanche have been doing that.
Exactly. And this one kind of came down to that solid defense that we had mentioned earlier. And so, like I said, the offensive, even though the woes were there and it's kind of in a rut, the defense has at least stepped up in this particular game where you gain a shutout. It takes you to shootouts even, but even your penalty kill is getting a great workout, and it's producing, and being pretty effective, I'd say.
Right.
So a good solid win. You're at least back in the win category, and you're ready to move on to the Canadians. So this was Lekkonen's first time playing the Canadians since being traded. So this was one that I was definitely hoping that he would produce, and it doesn't go to waste when I say he did a very fine job in this game. In fact, that first line, I would say, against Montreal, did a very good job. The only thing, again, it's just stuff just wasn't happening. You did 4 of the 5 steps right, but just that last one, you made that one mistake, and it ended up taking away a good play on like an odd man rush, or you just missed on a pass that would have led to an open net. Just little things like that. But this time it gave you a new challenge. You had to now play from behind really, really early in that game. But this was one where the Avalanche fought it out. It was a hard fought one. You thought again that the Canadians wouldn't have that type of firepower, but again, a best foot forward situation, and you can't fault the Canadians for giving it their best.
Absolutely. And it doesn't hurt either to have all those games at home, 5 home games. I mean, that doesn't hurt a bit, having that crowd behind you. And I'll tell you what, Georgiev, that guy has really shut the door, so to speak, knowing that he has to be the guy because we don't have all of our pieces. And boy, has he come up solid. He's made some incredible saves. One right against I guess he put his right skate up against the post and just kept that wraparound goal from going in, and then standing on his head in that shootout. And I know we'll get to that too, but in that shootout, what an amazing goaltending that was.
Yeah, definitely. Again, because on that shootout, you knew it was going to be, it's whoever makes the mistake first between shooter and goalie. Right, because with that Evan Rodriguez one against the Islanders, did the same thing against the Rangers. That move where he goes to his backhand like he's heading left, and then right at the last minute heads back to his forehand, scoots the other direction, and then nets it in. It worked against Shesterkin on the Rangers, so might as well try it again, right? And worked right on Sorokin, and that was all that needed to be. But it's just it's nice to know that you do have that sound goaltending, especially in the Montreal game where it's like, you let that first one in. It was kind of a dopey goal. But at the same time it went into the net, and so you have to now play from behind. But to know that it's not just an all confidence is lost type situation. Right. Georgiev is going to get back to solid ground and play his style of game, which he did for the rest of that Montreal game. Lekkonen finally nets in his goal, and let me make sure I see this. 2 minutes into the third period, so it was quite a while until we tied the game, but finally we broke through. And I knew at that point, while watching that game, I knew that there was going to be that momentum, whatever it carried, but I thought it was going to carry rather late in the game, which it did, but it ended up carrying into overtime. But you knew as soon as that game was tied, you were going to win the game. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's how I felt.
Oh yeah, I definitely felt the momentum change. Absolutely. And it even brought the crowd back in. And that's the thing that I'm a little perplexed by. Usually the crowd for the Avalanche is really into the game from start to finish. But when you're trailing right out of the gate, that pretty much puts the hands of the fans, in their laps. They're not going to be, up. But when we got that tying goal, things changed. And that's when you saw the team feed off of that momentum from the crowd, and things changed. And I think that's, it's a huge, huge advantage to be at home. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you got to remember, like we said, that so in this particular, the Montreal game, 36 shots on net, which is great. We won 29 face-offs against their 23. So you win the face-off percentage. And I'm telling you, I've said this on previous episodes past, face-offs really can make a difference, especially in those high key situations where if you miss this face-off or you lose this face-off, it could spell disaster potentially, right? So I will stand by that face-offs are kind of like free throws in a basketball game. You might not think they're too much, but they can add up in a big way, especially down toward the end. But we cannot go without saying in this Montreal game the beautiful heroics of a one Mikko Rantanen.
Oh yeah.
I cannot sing this guy's praises enough right now. He's just a producer, and this year he's got the most goals on the team. You can't say enough about this guy. It just seems like with the Hart Trophy, that MVP trophy at the end of the year, it just feels like it's going to go unnoticed. But I want to bring this to light. He is doing a very, very good job this year. In all aspects of the game. It seems like his defense is definitely solid, but that offensive production that he has, it's unbelievable, Bill. I don't know what else to say.
Well, that's what we were mentioning a little earlier, that somebody has got to be the next man up, so to speak, to be that leader when you don't have a Nathan McKinnon on the ice, or you don't have a Gabriel Landeskog on the ice, or a Cogliano. Somebody else has to step up. And you're right, Rantanen is just he's turned into that guy. And that's exactly what Colorado needs at this point in time, because like I mentioned earlier, we cannot afford to fall back. We have to maintain what we're doing. And then when we get these guys back, then kick it into gear and watch out.
Definitely. Avatar here does bring up a good point. Let's read his comment. It says, Comfer has been great at winning faceoffs.
Oh, yeah.
I could not agree more with this. I think he needs to be our faceoff man, because he's been winning more faceoffs than he has been losing. So if you're in the plus side of your faceoff percentage, I say you stick with it. We had Kodja that did that last year, but it seems like you couldn't quite get a good sample from him, because he was kicked out of like 106% of the faceoffs he took. But Comfer he's definitely shown that he is progressing. I've noticed he's gotten some more minutes. His faceoffs, but this is the right comment though. That faceoff wins. He's doing a great job.
Absolutely,
and it's paying dividends.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and it works on both sides of the red line. I mean, if you're in your own zone, you need to win the faceoff so that you can take advantage and move down the ice. When you're in the attacking zone, you have to win the faceoff so you can set it up and keep the other guys on the ice and tired. And that's important. So yeah, for him to keep winning faceoffs at the percentage he is, that's absolutely dividends, big time.
Yep, for sure. So you escape the Canadians with the win in overtime. You got a win streak back up, and then you head to Nashville. So you finish that 5-game homestead, winning 4 of the 5, mind you, which is great. And you're off to Nashville to finally play the game, where they've cleaned up all the water at Bridgestone Arena. The pipes have been fixed. The arena's back to its beautiful Nashville roots. And this game, you were presented with an even bigger challenge. So with Montreal, it was down 1-0 early in the game. With Nashville, you go down 2-0 by the end of it was about midway through the second period, I'd say. But in either sense, you basically have half of a game to come back and win 2-0. come back from a 2-0 deficit to win 3-2, which is ultimately what it would be. Rantanen again gets a goal. You're feeling okay. It's okay. You thought it would be okay. But as soon as that third period hit and Comfort net that goal with 5 minutes left, well, not even that, I should say. Let me jump back. As soon as that third period started, that's when momentum shifted in a huge way. Like beforehand, I think it was at the end of the second period, Avalanche didn't have a ton of shots, maybe 20, maybe. I can't remember the exact numbers. But that third period starts, and all of a sudden, it's just offense go.
Yep.
It was amazing. So if you don't think that athletic momentum in any sport, if you don't think it's real, watch this game.
Yeah.
Just go and replay it, because you will see as soon as that third period hits, it just seems like the Avalanche flipped the switch.
Yep.
It was incredible. So, Bill, your thoughts on that?
Well, that was just an amazing comeback. I mean, like you said, down 2-0, and all of a sudden, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's all of a sudden they look at each other and say, "Okay, it's time to go." It's uncanny how it's been like that this year. And then when we went to overtime, and I'm thinking, okay, well, it's probably going to end, 2-2. We're going to go into a shootout. Nope. I think there was 43 seconds left, or 42 seconds left.
Some odd seconds, yep.
Yeah, and the puck goes in the net, and that was a long shot too. I think that was up around above the circles or near the top of the circles.
This one was a breakaway with Rodriguez, a 2-on-1.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was thinking. You're right.
But no, I know the one. I know the one
pass.
you were thinking of. Yeah. But that was, as soon as that breakaway happened, I said, "This is Girard's time to shine," because
that was
he was in the right position. It was a kind of a difficult pass, but he still made it work. And that's the one thing I really want to scream Sammy G's praises on, was even with not the cleanest pass, he still was able to get it just past the outstretch. I think it was his left leg. No, his right leg, excuse me. As he was coming back the other direction of UC Saros, gets it right past him, and you went, "Oh my gosh!" We were all surrounding the kitchen table. I was at my parents' house at the time, and as soon as we saw that breakaway happen, we're all like standing up, just like, "Come on, you can do it! You can do it!"
Yeah.
And what a big break for him, for sure, because he was one of those players that you were just like, "Oh, if he could just score a goal, he would get so much confidence back." And what a way to have it, but in overtime.
Yeah. Yeah. And with just under a minute, actually. I mean, this thing could have gone to another shootout, and then what? But like you said, you're right. It was that breakaway. That was just a great chemistry combination pass, and just a one-timer. Soon as it came across, boom, knocked it right in the net. That was absolutely fabulous. It was great to see, a great way to end that, right before the holidays, and now we get right back to it starting tomorrow. So
that is correct. And let's go ahead and jump right into that then. The weekly look ahead. So this is to wrap up the rest of the year of 2022. Couple of them, I should say one of them you should win, and that would be the Arizona Coyotes. The other one against Los Angeles could be fun. And then your difficult task is having Toronto come in, and that'll pin you up to see how much you actually have in the tank, and to see what it really would be with this current squad, how difficult or how much effort you'll have to give in order to win that game. So let's go ahead and get started into this Arizona game. You're at Arizona. You're at Mullet Arena, the beautiful 5,000 seater that they have, that they co-host with Arizona State, the two tenants there that they have. The Coyotes are not a team that you want to take lightly, even though they're bottom tier, at least as far as statistics go. They, after the Avalanche lost to Boston, they went to Phoenix and lost to the Coyotes. So keep in mind that they can beat whichever team. They are still an NHL caliber team. But that being said, there's a few keys to the game that I'd want to relay to everyone. If the Avalanche players are listening, please take this to heart. First key to the game: find ways to score. They're close every single time. They're close. But there just needs to be that one little tweak that if someone was moved into a different position, or if they just took more shots, or found their own way to the slot, or just and someone in the face-off circle. I don't know exactly what it needs to be, but just find a way to score.
Yeah,
that's the big thing, because I feel like if you just get 3 goals in the first period, the production problem is essentially solved for that game. But right now it's get that first goal, because you're not scoring until either late in the game or at least in the second half.
Right.
Get something in the first period. Get 2 in the first period, and then everything should be pretty mellowed out from there.
Yeah, we have to. And it seems to me like, I don't know, it's almost as if they come out sluggish, or they come out not as inspired. I'm not sure what it is. I don't, and I hate to say it's a Stanley Cup hangover, because it seems like we're far enough into the season where that shouldn't be the case. But it just seems that they come out sluggish. They come out maybe thinking that all they have to do is show up on the ice, and that's bothersome. That's worrisome. So when the light bulb does come on late in the second or third period, there's going to be times where it's not going to work. And that's the problem. So you're right. We have to come out. With a purpose, intensity, energy, passion, desire, whatever it is. Come out there and play like it's the 7th game of the Stanley Cup. You got to do that. And I know it's tough to do that over an 82-game season, but you have to. You can't sit back and just expect good things to happen, because it's not going to work that way.
Absolutely. And what a better team to do this against, though, with a more defensive-minded Coyotes team. Right. But that being said, they will still take advantage of any mistakes that you make. But that would be the one. That is the game to find that footing, that offensive production, score on all the penalties that you have. Or if you've already done enough to show that you can kill off penalties of the opposing team, but show now that you can score on your own power plays. Get back up to that top tier that you were at before all these injuries happened. Right. This is the game to do it. Second key to the game that I have on here is shake the arena down. Now, granted, that arena is not the largest thing, so it should not be that difficult. But at the same time, it's an away game. Mullet Arena, from the Coyotes games that my wife and I have watched, even though it's a smaller arena and the capacity is about 5,000 people, it still gets pretty rocking. Right? It still gets pretty loud, and it's fun.
They're really close to the ice.
It's a close and intimate atmosphere, man. It's and it'll get right to your head. So shake the arena down. Don't give them any reason to have that fanatic momentum that you always talk about, Bill, because the fans, they're just as a viable key to the home team winning as anything, right? It's definitely one of those wild cards. So if you take out the intensity from the fans, it becomes a little easier to win the mental game. So if you do that, I feel like you have an easier chance to get the victory there in Tempe and get out of there.
Yeah, I also on that note, in order to take the crowd out, I think what the Avalanche have to do, like you mentioned, we have to score first, but we also have to use our tenacity. We have to hit the guys on the boards. We have to take them off their game. If they're coming down the ice and we have a chance to check them legally, knock them off the puck. Get physical out there. Because if you start getting physical on these guys, they're going to slow down. The speed is not going to be there because they don't want to take that hit at full speed. So take the crowd out with scoring first, get the intensity up, and let's go home with a good solid win. Let's not go to overtime. Let's take this thing in regulation.
Yep. And handedly in regulation. I'd say by 2 or more.
Yep.
That would be at least ideal for us. But then again, that's That's just us wanting to have that happen, you know.
Yeah.
But I totally think it's possible. But that
Mhm.
being said, never count them out. They are an NHL caliber team. Talking about the Coyotes,
Mhm.
so play smart at the same time.
Yep. Yep.
Key number 3 to this game is the question: who emerges as quote unquote the guy?
Mhm.
Who is going to be that force on the Avalanche that pushes the rest of the team? You know, that is kind of that commander in chief, so to speak, in order to get the offense set up and back running as it used to be. That right now, I'd say that guy is Mikko Rantanen.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep.
But that's just because he's at least the one that's doing all the producing. I feel like he can hype the guys up the most.
Mhm.
But what needs to what we need to make sure happens, I say we, but like what the Avalanche need to make sure happens.
That's we.
That's we, right? Yeah. Um, but keep Miko, keep his head in check,
Yeah.
because there are some times where he will give up those kind of boneheaded penalties where it's like, yeah, it was a soft call, but you really shouldn't have had your stick, you know, in a slashing manner, or you should have just known that it was going to trip him or something like that. Um, I think Miko could step up big time
Mhm.
in this type of an atmosphere, in this type of game.
Yeah, I think the Avalanche definitely need to play smart. Don't take stupid penalties. If you even have a thought it could be called, then don't do it. You know, and I know it's easier said than done because these guys don't want the other team to get an advantage. Let's say breaking out of the zone or getting a 2-on-1, so you want to take them out. Sometimes, now I will agree, sometimes there are smart penalties. You take the penalty because you don't want to give up that easy soft goal. I understand that, but if you're behind the net and you got your stick out, don't put it in an area where it could hit the gloves or the hands, and because you're going to be called. The other thing too is don't try and play for the perfect shot. Just start shooting on net. Look for the rebounds. Get guys in front to get a deflection or a tip or a screen or whatever. If the more they try and set up for the perfect shot, the more it's not going to work. And that was proven in the last couple of games.
Yep, definitely. But the good news about those, though, they can be fixed. They are fixable problems. But it's a matter of getting that fixed now instead of
Right.
later. I
Absolutely.
definitely agree. So that's the Coyotes game in a nutshell. Those 3 keys to the game, I think, are the biggest things that they can at least find out and figure out for themselves. Everything else can gel, right? I think it shouldn't be too hard of an issue. Moving on then, the Los Angeles Kings. I don't remember if that was an away game here. Let me check. No, that is a
I think it's home
game. I believe that is a home game. Yep.
Yeah.
That and the Maple Leafs. Okay, good. So you're back in Ball Arena. Everything's great, right? Big thing for this one, the 3 keys to the game that I have at least. Number 1, defeating a goaltender 101. That's right. We're going back to college for this. Los Angeles is a very interesting team right now, given where they sit in the Pacific Division, their standing, but more specifically with their goaltending. And my wife actually just brought up a great comment. So not only is Jonathan Quick playing very, very well, so is Phoenix Copley.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. They're kind of like a junior Avalanche in the sense where they have 2 very, at this point, I would say, proven goaltenders. Where Copley beat out Cal Peterson and sent him down to the AHL for that 1B spot on the
Right.
Kings. So you need to go back to that fundamental, find what his weakness is and exploit it. We did that in the Stanley Cup, and that game too, where we won 7-0. We knew exactly where Vasilevsky's weakness was: blocker, high side. And we just went for that every single time until he was like, okay, they're going after this. Then we went after something that he was leaving unprotected, right? It was we figured him out and just exploded offensively. Beautiful game too, let me say. Do the same thing here, right? You don't know who you're going to get just yet, but it's about cracking him early, and it's about exploiting his weaknesses.
Exactly. One difference though between the Stanley Cup, that's a possible 7 games where you can figure out. I know we figured them out in game 2, but what the Avalanche have to do when it comes to either Copley or Quick, what they have to do is they have to really study the game film and study it intensely. You know, is it the 5th hole? Is it the glove side? Is it high left? Is it high right? Is it getting him moving out away from the net? Whatever it is, they have to work on that in pregame and in practice to make sure that they have that down pat. Now, and not only do they do that with Copley, they also have to do it with Quick, because like you said, you don't know which one you're going to get. So they're going to have to do their homework big time. And I think they'll do that.
For sure. And then in game, it should Avalanche, if they found their offensive footing from the Coyotes game, they should be able to put a few quick shots within the first 5 minutes of the game. Find out exactly if it's one of those kind of he's not trapping the puck type of games, if he's letting juicy rebounds away type game. It should be pretty quick to find out exactly what type of game from which type of player you're getting.
Right.
Second key to the game is stop being so extra on the power plays. And we touched on that earlier in this episode, was just that perimeter shooting, right? Or perimeter passing, I should say.
Right.
Where you just, you can get into the zone, but instead of trying to attack and set up something different, it's just kind of pass it around, wait for an open lane, then someone cuts and you try to make it work. It's sound in theory, but at the same time, it's just wasting time, instead of trying to, because remember, they're on the penalty kill for 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to just shoot and fire and come up with something more creative than just passing around the perimeter. So that would be my second key to the game, is stop being so extra and just go and do. That's it. Just go and do. Don't think too hard about it, right? Just know what you're going to do before you have the puck, either pass or shoot, whatever it's going to be, but just do. Right. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you start passing 4 and 5 and 6 times around the perimeter, all the defense has to do is basically just collapse. And that's what they're doing. They're not going after the person with the puck, the player with the puck. They're collapsing and they're clogging up lanes. So I would say make 1 or 2 quick passes and shoot. Even if they clear the puck, go down, get it, and start over again. But don't waste all that time, because if you waste all that time, 20, 25, 30 seconds doing that, then when they shoot it down the ice, now you've got like potentially 45 seconds wasted instead of maybe 20. So, pass 1 or 2 times, take a shot, and hope for a rebound or deflection and move on.
Exactly. And that's just it, right? Down in that net, if you can just throw something on there, screening the goalie or something like that, you never know what could get past him, or you never know what kind of a rebound he'll let up and what happens in that kind of scrum right in front of the crease. You never know what could happen. But the thing is, as Wayne Gretzky would say, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And even those ones down in the crease, those are shots that can have potential, right?
Sure.
So it's all just a matter of getting that done. Key number 3 in the Los Angeles game is look before you leap. I've noticed a few times here and there with some really bad passes that have gone, just because we thought someone was going to be there, or we thought it would be the right type of move, but just is out of the reach or something like that. I would just say if you have your awareness, right, and you know where someone's coming, where they're going to be, it's kind of more stay more aware type comment. Then you can make that type of pass. But a blind one, I think England made a couple of those. EJ made a couple of those throughout last week. And it was just, we had a great forecheck, keeping the puck in the offensive zone. And then it just kind of dissipated with a really, really bad pass. I don't think anything came out of those from the opposing team, but still it was like you had it, but then you just gave it away. So look before you leap. Right.
Absolutely. And like we mentioned earlier, some of these passes, I mean, they're just barely either ahead of the stick, or they're bouncing funny and they hop over the stick. And, some of that could be attributed to ice or, snow on there, so to speak, that kind of thing. So the passes just need to be more crisp. Don't try and rush. Don't try and hurry. Take your time, make that pass. Be solid, and then take advantage of the angle that you have, and just shoot towards the net. Just don't. Sometimes I think in my mind, they think too much. They try and think the perfect play or the perfect pass, and sometimes when you think instead of reacting, you slow yourself down. And I think that's sometimes part of the problem we're having.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Because kind of like what you were saying with the one, the prior one with power plays, is that they'll just group back together because all we do is pass around the perimeter right now. Then they stonewall you.
Right.
Well, that comes as a result of you thinking too much, right? They'll be like, well, they're not decisive, so just come back together and basically make it impossible. I think it was, I can't remember if it was the Islanders game, but in total, we threw 70 some odd shots in total. Blocked shots of those ended up being about a little more than half. But that's, again, because we thought too hard, and as soon as the lane kind of opened, we shot it, but it got blocked really quick. You're right. I agree completely with what you say, is react.
Yep.
Right? Don't think too hard, just react.
Yep.
So those are the three keys to the game for the Los Angeles Kings when we host them on Thursday, which, mind you, is a reverse retro night. So if you have your reverse retro sweaters or any kind of gear for reverse retro, bring it on Thursday, or wear it at home, whichever you want to do. Okay, last game, and this one's going to be the most interesting of the week. It is against the Toronto Maple Leafs, who right now are top in, one of the top in the league. They have an offense that is just killer. And right now I think you have enough of the players back that you should be able to make this a game instead of those two, like against Boston, for example, where it was kind of more of a rollover and die kind of thing.
Yeah, that wasn't
call
good.
It that, but that's at least how the outcome ended feeling. This is kind of more of you can make this a game. This is a winnable game now with the squad that you have. There aren't any excuses of injuries. You have Shushkin back, you have Rodriguez, you have Lehkonen, all those guys that were out in those first time, you have them back. So that being said, the key to this game, the three keys to this game, the first one is an offensive defense. This is where Cale Makar and Devon Taves can step up big time. And I mean big time. Going back to those games of old from last season where it seemed like those two were the offense and the defense in any given game. This is their time to step up and make big plays.
Right. Oh, Makar has been absent for most of the season. If I recall, he hasn't had but maybe just a handful of goals this year. And I'm not too sure if it's because of the players we're missing and he just doesn't feel comfortable with the line that he's on or the chemistry that he's with when he's out there. I'm not sure, but it seems to me too that his defense is still solid. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
it's the offensive side. He's passing a lot more. He's trying to set up things too much. But you're right. He needs to start taking that puck and firing at the net. He needs to start being aggressive. He needs to be more like Cale Makar. And I'm agreeing with you. I think this is his game. He needs to come out and shine. Absolutely.
Yep, I definitely agree. Avatar does bring up Malgin will play his former team on Saturday. So hopefully, and it seems like when you do that kind of, they call them revenge games, but really it's just you were so used to that team and you practiced against them that you tend to do better. But revenge game nonetheless. So maybe Malgin ends up netting something. That should be good.
Yeah.
The question here from Holly says, do you think the goalie that Toronto plays will make a difference if the Avalanche play against Murray or Samsonov? It might a little bit, but this kind of feels like it would also be kind of one of those Los Angeles Kings type questions where it's like you need to just brush up on who you got, and who you're playing. Now Murray has come back from a slew of injuries, but he's still playing at a very high clip. Samsonov he's good. He's just not elite tier to someone like Shesterkin or Vasilevsky, but he's still a very solid goalie and can make you work for goals when, if he's in his element, he can definitely make it hurt. So it could make a difference, but depending on who they get, which I would anticipate in this one, they're going to put out Murray. I would say if you can have him on a down note, utilize it.
Right.
Take as much advantage of it as you can. Second key to the Toronto game is mistakes will cost you. This is a team very similar. They have a very Vegas Golden Knights-esque aura about them, in that if you make a mistake and a dumb mistake at that, they can switch the cards on you quickly. No pun intended for Vegas. But
How's it good, man?
I try sometimes. They have that type of thing where it's like they can make a mistake, turn against you quickly, so that would be the big key, is play sound, right? You've played more or less mistake free this last week. Carry that same element, but just with the offensive firepower, especially against Toronto, and you should see a lot more opportunities created for you offensively, a lot more takeaways defensively, getting out of their zone instead of just fumbling around with it, stuff like that. So don't make mistakes, or they will cost you.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about Toronto. They are quick to change directions. You make a mistake, and then it could easily be 3-on-1 or 3-on-2 in a heartbeat. And that's not to say that our defensemen can't get back quick enough. But when you make a mistake and you're going one direction, now you got to switch and go the other. Now remember, they're backing up. All they have to do is go forward. So you don't lose the puck in neutral ice. Don't lose the puck at the blue line. You can't afford to do that. You've got to make smart passes. You've got to be smart. And this could be one of those games where it could be 1-0. It could actually go into shootout because both teams have that capability of shutting the other team down. But mistakes, I agree, mistakes can and possibly will be costly. Hopefully they're more costly for Toronto than they are for Avalanche.
Yes, I definitely agree. I would hope so.
Yeah.
The last key to this game, and we kind of brushed on it just barely, was a fundamental game. You need to be fundamentally sound in this game, and in that, crisp passes, good shots, just stuff that you work on in practices and stuff like that. Excuse me. It's all just making sure you are fundamentally sound, and that leads towards, if you're not, it leads to those mistakes that we were talking about. You end up being more on the defensive side of things instead of offensive. I feel like if you can have those fundamentals down, especially when it comes to power play, offensive entries to your offensive zone, neutral zone, like battles for the puck, stuff like that, crashing up against the boards, clean hits, clean checks, all that fundamental stuff. Don't let it hit you into the penalty box. Don't let it get you into your head, because again, Toronto, they play games mentally as well. It's just keep it sound, play Avalanche hockey, the Avalanche hockey that we know they can play, as they have in fact hoisted the cup less than a year ago still. It's just keep it sound, keep it smart, but still be aggressive with it.
Absolutely. I'm not sure, though, that the Avalanche can play a game against Toronto penalty free. But if there are penalties, they need to be few and far between. And they don't need and absolutely cannot be foolish penalties. That being said, I have a question for you. And this is a 2-part one. Going against Arizona, and then going against the Kings, and then Toronto, who would you rather have start? Because I don't think Georgiev is going to start all three. Who should start against the against Arizona, and who should start against Toronto?
That's a good question. Just off of kind of repetition's sake, or I guess I shouldn't say repetition, but for playing time's sake, I would start Francouz against the Coyotes tomorrow.
I agree.
Just because they are a lower tier team offensively, they still not the greatest, but they still can get shots on you and stuff like that. I think get Francouz back in the net for the Coyotes game, and then have Georgiev head right back to his normal self, because he played a fantastic week. He got second star of the week.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was actually a comment. That was
it was, but I think it was by Avatar.
Yeah,
was
right
it Avatar?
Here. So he second star of the week, right? That's nothing to gawk at. That, and with a shutout, it was like a mid-90s save average. Like, he did a great job. So give him tomorrow off, I would say. Have Francouz step up, make sure he's still warm, so to speak, on fire, because he had a really good couple of games a couple weeks ago. And then move on to Georgiev for the Kings, and especially have him on his A game against Toronto, because you're going to need an A game goalie against Toronto.
Right. Now, the last game we played before the break was Thursday, correct? If I was mistaken, was it Thursday?
Friday.
Friday. Okay, Friday.
I think it was Friday.
Would Georgiev be too rusty if he doesn't play until Thursday? That's almost a week off.
It's definitely something to think about, because there does become the rest versus rust argument, and when is that?
Right.
So that and maybe that's something they do, is maybe they play him on tomorrow, and then they play Francouz against Los Angeles, and then they play Georgiev again on Saturday.
Right.
Man, that's a good question. It's definitely a good argument to have, but I think still I would run with Francouz. I don't think that's long enough, because it would be Thursday. That's 6 days that he rests. I think as soon as you hit 7 or 8, that's where the rust begins to kind of take over. So I think you're just kind of knocking on that threshold, but I think you should still be okay to have in that rest category for Georgiev. But at the same time, I'm this is just armchair GM stuff, and so if it did come down to me, I'd probably cry with the decision if they actually called and said, "Hey, who should we play?" I'm like, I don't know, man. Whatever you want.
I just wanted to get your thoughts, because
that's definitely a good question. I don't know what about your thoughts on that. I'll bounce that back to you.
I'm kind of leaning towards. That is tough, because the Kings are a much better team than Arizona. So do you put Francouz against the Kings? And now he's been off a lot longer than Georgiev. So there comes the rust part. So maybe you're right. Maybe you put in Francouz against Arizona, hoping for the best, because he has had a lot of time off. And then you maybe work Georgiev I wouldn't say extra hard, but more intensely in practice to get him kind of back into that shape, and then put him in there against the Kings and then against Toronto. That's a good point. I think so.
No, definitely.
I think you're right.
But I'm just glad it's not us making the decision.
Exactly.
starting lineups and stuff like that. But
because I'd second guess myself.
I'd immediately start doing that as soon as I spat out a name. But in either sense, these should be 3 really entertaining games, very good to watch. I'm especially looking forward to the Toronto one before the new year. So let's wrap 2022 up on a high note, man. Get some out with the old, in with the new. And when we say new, we're talking about having McKinnon and Landeskog come back, because it's excuse me, we're inching closer, ever closer.
It seems like forever since they've been on the ice together. It really has.
It really does. So when that finally happens, mid-January, I know McKinnon's going to be back maybe first full week of January. I can't remember. Now
they said he was at an upper body, no, the lower body, wasn't it?
I think it was like, because when he took that shot again, it was just a regular shot. It was like his ribs that he was holding. But he is back out on the ice practicing with the team, and not in a non-contact either. He's in a regular practice sweater. So which is good news for us.
Right.
So I'm not going to complain. So
but that if anybody knows he has that lingering lingering injury, they're going to target it like nobody's business.
Oh, you betcha. You betcha. But McKinnon's body, man, I tell you, it's all that chickpea pasta that he eats. He metabolizes fast. You got a really good immune system or growth spurts, whatever it is. Stem cells are on steroids, whatever. But he recovers pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So the quicker he gets back on the ice, the better this team gets. At least that's how it'll feel. So.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everyone, for watching this episode. Bill, it's been an absolute blast to have you on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Couple last housekeeping items. Brittini was not here this week. She's with her family on vacation. She's having a great time. She just wants to send her regards, telling you how much she appreciates the listeners, how much she appreciates all of you guys that give your feedback, give your comments, listen to the show every day. Bill and I feel the same way. We really do appreciate all of your guys' efforts to participate in this podcast. We really enjoy doing this. It's been a great 2022. We're definitely looking forward to 2023 and the new year here in just a few days. So hopefully you guys get those New Year's resolutions all sorted out. Stick to them. Out with the old and with the new. Hope you guys have had a really good holiday as well. Just remember one last item. If you like this episode, do not forget to like and subscribe and follow the MHRT network, where you can get all of the network shows such as Broncos Breakdown, which I will suggest you listen to on Friday. He's going to have a lot to say about it, I'm sure. Clusterpuck Podcast, Wild Wild West, and many, many more shows. If you like what you saw here and you want to follow us on our Clusterpuck channel, you can follow us at Clusterpuck Avs on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook at the Clusterpuck Podcast, and you can write any complaining emails saying how terrible my sweater looks. I think it looks fantastic, so I don't care what you say, but you can still write an email either way to clusterpuckpodcast@gmail.com. We wish you guys a Merry Christmas from yesterday, a happy holidays, a happy new year. Anything you want to add, Bill?
No, I think you covered it. I just want to say thanks to everybody that watches all the shows. MHRT Network definitely appreciates it. Guys, stay safe and have a wonderful, wonderful new year. And I'll be here on Friday, so tune in for that. But until then, guys, just thanks for watching. Like always, real appreciate it.
Okay, good deal. We'll see you, everyone. Take care and go Avs go.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
'Cause this party is over.